My name is Rebecca Strube, and I am an apprentice here at the City of Tacoma within the Electrical Meter and Relay Technicians. I have been with the City of Tacoma for 3 years. Over the years, I've surprised myself working in male-dominant type jobs. Working for Pierce County Roads, I operated a jackhammer and ran a backhoe. And here, I work with a lot of math and numbers, which isn't too far-fetched for me. I've always been pretty good with numbers themselves. There's not very many women in the trade working with their hands, working with tools, working with the electronics. You see this as a male predominant role, and it shows right now we have 3 female meter techs and 1 female relay tech, and no females in special projects. So, you know, we definitely need women, and it's untraditional because it's mostly men field right now. I can't think of any real advantages or barriers that I've come across being a woman in this line of work. Everybody is really team oriented around here and very helpful. They haven't made any of us ladies feel out of place, definitely. The only time I've ever actually asked for any help or assistance is when it comes to climbing ladders or the meters on bridges, because I am deathly afraid of heights. So as a team member, other people are more than happy to pitch in, and they don't treat me anything less than because of my heights issue. My job responsibilities mainly consist of testing and recalibrating meters, checking the sockets at businesses and residents when we're there, making sure the voltages and are all accurate, and that the CTs and PTs are working the way that they should be. There's a lot of testing with equipment that we do on our homes and businesses on our system to make sure that everything is working accurately and properly. We don't want to underbill, and we certainly don't want to overbill, so it's really important that we keep all of our test equipment accurate and working properly. A daily assignment at my job is to get a list of jobs in the morning, and then we get to prioritize what's the most important for the day. And then we run around the city and we try to make sense of making a map of it and try to get as many jobs as we can done in a day and make good use of our time as meter techs out there in the field. There's been some fair share of stealing of power, and that's the most thing that we see with the economy being up and down. I've seen power theft go up, and I've seen it come way back down also. We go out to the job site, and usually we have to cut somebody for credit if they haven't paid their bill or anything. And that's one of the real downsides to the job, is that you have to do that. But it's just like anywhere else. You can't shoplift at the store. Well, you can't steal from the power company either. So we check those sockets every once in a while, make sure that they haven't gotten back into their socket and that they're stealing power. And when things like that come, then we do reports and we add it to their bill, and then we cut them at the pole. It's not a fun situation, but it is something that's realistic that's out there.
Well, my name is Kathleen Fitzgerald. I've worked here at TPU for about 20 years. I am a wire electrician. So I joined the military for 4 years, and I did electronics. And when I got out, I was looking around for a job in the field that I did in the military, which was a biomed tech, which fixed medical equipment. Then I met this guy that was an electrician, and he said, "Why don't you work for the utilities? It's just a straight piece of wire." And I'm thinking, a straight piece of wire? And I'm thinking, well, electronics is a little bit more complicated than a straight piece of wire. Let me try. So I took the exam, and I did well, and they called me and they hired me. And I'm thinking, this is the best. It's an apprenticeship program. To join the apprenticeship, you just needed to have at least 1 year experience outside in the weather, and you get a lot of that from the military. And doing some heavy construction, doing some construction work. And the other one was the military really helped with just getting more experience in learning, learning the math. So all of you that think that in high school that math is not for you, math is everywhere when you get out. Believe you me, algebra especially. So for this field, you need to know algebra, a little bit of trig, a little bit of physics, all those classes that you said, oh no, that's not for me, you're doing it. You're out there using heavy equipment, Sometimes you're not even dealing with electricity. You're doing more building, constructing different structures. Like the job that I am on now, we are dealing with a lot of oil. Yes, oil. Why oil? Because oil is what keeps the transformers that we work on cool. So we're using a lot of oil, pumping. So you have to know about hosing, fittings, O-rings, all different kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with electricity. Being a female in my job, really, it has its advantages. The advantage is that you stand out. So it's a lot easier to be noticed for your accomplishments. Also, it's a lot easier to be noticed for when you do something pretty bad. So you want to do the best that you can because of the other females that are coming behind you. So the males, if you have a good example, the males tend to be a lot easier on the other females that come along behind you. So especially if they haven't worked with a female before. The disadvantage of being a female, especially being a black female, in a more traditional job that are usually for white males, is that that it's more harder. Sometimes you have to be more aggressive than you would want to seem because they don't step aside, especially in my field where I'm the lead worker. So I'm in charge of other males, and sometimes that's hard to deal with. So you have to come off a little bit hard, a little bit rougher than your soft feminine side. So a lot of times you seem to be more of a, take on features of a male more than the female aspect. So that part is hard. And after you've done it, like I've done it for 20 years, sometimes it's hard to get along with other females because you're thinking more in the male mode than in the female mode. So that part is hard. Okay, my typical day, we get our job assignments from our supervisors. We usually report in the morning at 8 o'clock. And the one thing that you have to remember, you have to get not at 8, you have to get there way before time. So the most important thing is to be punctual, especially since being female, there's not many of you, so you are looked at a lot. They notice every little time you're late, you're there on, so make sure you're on time. So we get there, get our assignments, go out to the job sites, do different jobs out there that include climbing, taking different pieces of equipment apart, dealing with high voltage, sometimes small electronics parts, because our field is getting more and more electronics, which is good for me because that's my original background. So on a typical day, that's mostly all the things that you could encounter, except for, of course, this beautiful weather here in Washington where it rains all the time. So you're dealing with also the weather.
Hi, my name is Latasha Razak. I work for Tacoma Power in the relay department. I've been working here for about 7 years. I actually started out as an electrical trainee, which was the first year that Tacoma Power actually put on the electrical trainee program, which basically was where they brought in applicants and they trained us all in all the different trades like the line, wire, and meter department. And they trained us and gave us all the tools necessary, also gave us math classes, things like that, to be able to take what they call the civil service exam to get into one of the actual apprenticeships in the different trades. Once I first started working here as, like I said, as a trainee, there was a little bit of math and geometry and algebra that is required for the job. And I had just gotten out of high school basically when I started, so it was still pretty fresh, but there was several people in my class that had been out of school for several years and struggled pretty much. Several of them actually struggled with the math and things that came along, but The good thing about this work environment is there's always someone there to help and, teach you and give you any guidance that you need so that you can be successful. It was overwhelming a little bit in the beginning for me with electronics. When I actually entered into the meter shop, I had no background whatsoever, didn't know what a transistor or a diode was, anything like that. Hadn't really used any tools, anything, so it was an obstacle to overcome when I first came into the program. But like I said, there's always someone around to help you out, to teach you, and as long as you stay focused and you practice and doing what you do, it's nothing that you can't learn. As far as being a female in a male dominant field, it was challenging, especially as a trainee coming in when you rotated through the different groups and you are around in places where basically just guys everywhere, and they kind of have the women shouldn't be here kind of attitude, so that was a little difficult to overcome in the beginning. But once you start making friends and you let them know, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to do what I have to do, and they kind of lighten up, and then you make lots of friends. Before I started here at Tacoma Power, I actually drove a school bus for several years, which a lot of people kind of wonder how I got into that. Because I had my CDL driving the school bus, I actually came in and went to apply to be a garbage truck driver just because I had my CDL, and they actually weren't hiring for garbage truck drivers. So the lady in the office, just said, "Hey, did you see this for the electrical trainee?" And I ended up applying for it, and here I am 7 years later, actually more than 7 years later. And I love my job. I love coming to work every day. We have a great bunch of people that work here, and it's never a dull moment. We have a pretty good group of people.